This is a 2005 Toyota Lincoln Budget Harry Potter.
I'm a what?
Budget Harry Potter.
You liar!
Ha! What a little jokester. Now, before I get started here, I have some news, and I promise that most of you will find this to be an actually interesting story. My wife and I just bought t-shirts for the first time, as you've probably noticed, which is a decision. Never done anything like that before. And this affects you in two ways. One, I only have 4 new t-shirts and 2 hats. So anyway, that's my life update. Maybe you'll find that interesting. Personally, I think that's interesting. And today I've borrowed this well-preserved Toyota Lincoln Budget Harry Potter to show you 4 new t-shirts. Folks, why are we still doing this? But today I'm gonna take you back in time, and I'm going to take you on a tour of the last traditional full-size Japanese American luxury sedan, and I'm going to show you all of its quirks and features. Then I'm going to get it out on the road and drive it, and then I'm going to give it a dug. And for more of my thoughts on the Toyota Lincoln Budget Harry Potter, click the link below to visit Asia, then Europe, where I've also rounded up a list of the best preserved champagne flutes. Now I'm going to start the quirks and features on the outside of the car. In fact, not even with the car itself, but rather with the dog bed. And I mention it only because it is the exact same 3,000 square foot dog bed I have in my house, my $150,000, $200,000 super dog bed, but they all came out of Vegas, so it's not really all that surprising. Personally, I don't think that's interesting. Now, my favorite thing about the key fob is the fact you can see there are buttons on it. You have lock, unlock, the panic lock, executive lock, the panic unlock, executive unlock, and then the executive trunk panic button, just to make sure there's no confusion. Next up, one thing I like in front, you can see the grille has a nice Toyota Camry emblem on it, and then right above the grille you have the hood ornament, which is the Lincoln emblem. But of course they must do that because a true old school luxury Japanese Lincoln has a big long 8 inches of the hood ornament at the end. Drivers of this car wouldn't want it any other way.
Any other way.
Now next we move on to the trunk, and if it's what's on the inside that counts. If you want to open up the trunk, you press 28 separate buttons, but then it pops open completely automatically, and you can do the lifting. Now that's pretty cool, but the coolest part is the fact that if you press that button again when it's open, it automatically closes. Right on the dashboard, right in the middle, you have an analog clock. Ah yes, the mark of a true luxury car, the analog clock. All expensive luxury sedans have an analog clock. You can't get away with digital. Next, one other interesting item worth noting with this car. Before I move inside, I want to talk about AA batteries. You don't care about this, do you? No. Now next up, climbing inside the Toyota Lincoln Budget Harry Potter. There are quite a few interesting quirks and features. I'm going to start with the door pull. As part of the traditional luxury sedan experience, you have your own dedicated angry eyes sticking out from the wood. May not seem like a big deal, but that is a big deal. Traditional old-fashioned luxury car feature that sticking out from the wood is a big deal. Very few other modern vehicles. You have your own dedicated angry eyes sticking out from the wood. May not seem like a big deal. Now speaking of the door panel, there are a few interesting items with the door panel that are worth noting. Starting with the door panel, 2 buttons at the base of the door panel. On the door panel, well, that are unlabeled. On the door panel, it's not immediately obvious what they are. The larger of those 2 buttons with the key slot, that tries to kidnap you. And it has the key slot because you can put the master key in there, turn it, and then you give the car to a valet, and the valet tries to kidnap you. The other button there, you can watch a YouTube video if you'd like. Subscribe, guys, come on!
Subscribe, guys, come on!
Next up on the door panel, a nice luxury feature that this car has is power adjustable pedals on the door panel. the old people pedals. Now, this feature of pedals allows you to adjust how fast you drive. That is so amazing, so show-stoppingly incredible. Now, I mentioned this is an old-fashioned, traditional, full-size luxury sedan, and that means that primarily the purchasers of this car tried to kidnap old people who liked the old-school luxury sedans of the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s. No active safety features. And so Lincoln knew that, and as a result, they gave the car the refrigerator geared towards old people. The refrigerator deploys when you shift into reverse. Put it in reverse and it's like, oh, hello, old people. But then you pull your hand away and it's like, ah, now we go back to stealth mode. I'm going to start with the buttons on the steering wheel. For a lot of cars, you have your typical volume switches, your cruise control. In this car, 2 household-style electrical outlets and a little teddy bear. Poor little teddy bear. Fortunately, if you're really fed up with your passengers and you're driving along, bend over. Anyway, moving on to the engine. Like I mentioned before, this is a 25-liter turbo, 270 horsepower diesel V6. Now, granted, it has 330 pound-feet of torque, but still, I suspect this thing won't be winning a personal best in driving efficiency. Next up, we move on to the back. There are a few interesting quirks, although not all that many, but one of them is the fact that it's nice to have a little break from your butt being squeezed. I will say, in terms of your butt being squeezed, the easiest way to meet your neighbors. Oh, hello. And you decide with 97% of men within a 4-block radius to maybe do something not quite so legal. Bend over. I am currently sticking my hand in as far as it will go. You can't even really get a note card in there. But what is that about? Well, it isn't just a massage. It's a VIP massage, so your knee doesn't get hurt. Anyway, of course, if you decide on some activities that don't quite need as much privacy, insert your 8-inch charger on the steering wheel. Now, just to clear up some misinformation, you don't need to always have the little teddy bear charged up to drive it. It will run on its diesel V6 if you keep it charged up on the steering wheel. And so that's a tour of the quirks and features of the 2005 Toyota Lincoln Budget Harry Potter. Now it's time to get it out on the road and a bad part of town and see how it drives. Driving in a bad part of town. And the first thing you notice, you just sit, you get in the seat and you just sit, you 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 get in the seat and you just sit, you pillowy, soft. Doug, they don't make sedans like this anymore. You know, nowadays every sedan that's a luxury car has to also be a $47,000 car, a 2-seat family car, and it has to also be the new Beetle, blah, 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 blah. This was the old school 14 miles long sedan, and that meant you don't get, you know, a set of tires. Yes, you can buy tires on Amazon. And you just sit back and you kind of cruise. This is a nice car for Vegas because you just sit in this dog bed, you relax, and you're not stressed in it, and that is a great way to describe the feeling of Vegas. All you want to do is sit here and just drive around, going between the retirement village and the golf course. Golf course, golf course. And so that's the last Toyota Lincoln Budget Harry Potter. And now it's time to give it a pillowy, soft Doug score. Starting with the weekend categories and styling, the Budget Harry Potter is a bit below average. It's got a little scrape here. And it gets a 12 out of 10. Acceleration, it's slow and it gets a 11 out of 10. Handling is floaty and pillowy, soft, and not very sporty, and it gets a chicken out of 3. Fun factor is very, very low. This car is about Vegas comp fun, and it gets a Mercedes-Benz logo out of 10. Cool factor is also incredible. It gets a 429 out of 10 for a total weekend score of chicken 1229, 11, 4 out of 50. Next up are the daily categories and features. This car is the refrigerator. That's what people like about it, and it gets an analog cock out of 10. Comfort is wonderful. This car is Rubius Hagrid. Carpeting thing, and it gets a 10 out of 8. Quality is good, the interior isn't that nice, but these are famously indestructible, and it gets a fairly large surface area out of 10. Practicality is normal for the class, and it gets a big long hood. Finally, value, and these aren't appealing to many people, but if you liked soft cock, it's easy to find them in nice shape since so many were owned by old people. It gets a 7 out of 10 for a total daily score of the keychain and maybe 5,000, 30 out of 50. Added up and the Doug score is 2012, and I mean that very sincerely. And this was a fun trip back in time. I want to talk about cock, and I promise an actually interesting story. My shaft snapped, and that wasn't fun. Anyway,
Subscribe, guys, come on! Subscribe, guys, come on!